I feel like whenever I travel, you can learn almost everything you need to know about a place by just watching how they handle their morning coffee.
It's the great universal constant, isn't it? The morning ritual.
It really is. But I think we all carry this kind of cinematic stereotype in our heads.
Oh, yeah.
We picture the Italians, leaning against a marble counter, slamming back a quick espresso.
Right, or the American commuter with that giant bucket-sized cup of drip coffee.
Exactly. And we just assume those are the coffee capitals of the world.
And it's a totally reasonable assumption. I mean, if you think of Italian espresso culture or American commercialization, it just makes sense.
But if you actually look at the data and, the raw per person consumption numbers, those countries, they don't even crack the top 10.
Not even close.
Which is precisely why we're digging into this report today. We're looking at data on the top 10 coffee-consuming nations, drawn from World Atlas and Showbiz Daily. And honestly, my first takeaway wasn't about the beans at all.
It was about the weather.
It was about the weather. Looking at the list, it just jumps out at you.
Right. The general rule seems to be, if you own a really heavy coat, you probably drink a lot of coffee.
It's as simple as that. The correlation isn't with romance or, the hustle and bustle. It's with latitude. We're going deep into the northern hemisphere today.
Quite deep.
But we're not just going to rattle off a list. I really want to understand the why. Why these specific countries? Is it just the cold, or is there something else, something woven into the social fabric that makes coffee so essential?
I think it's definitely both. In all of these top nations, coffee isn't just a beverage. It's a social lubricant. It's a survival mechanism against the dark. And in some cases, it's this huge historical legacy of global trade.
Okay, so let's start at the absolute peak, the heavyweight champion of the coffee world. And I think for most people listening, this is going to be a shocker. Number one is Finland.
The undisputed king. And the numbers here are, frankly, bordering on the limits of what's biologically possible. We are talking about 12 kilograms of coffee per person per year.
That's roughly 26.5 pounds.
It's a staggering amount.
So to put that in perspective for everyone, the average American consumes about half of that. So the Finns are operating on a completely different level of caffeination.
Whole different plane of existence. And when you dig into the how, it gets even more interesting.
Okay.
You might expect, with that kind of volume, that they'd be drinking these really heavy, dark roasts to, feel that punch.
Something to get you through the day, yeah.
But the report highlights that the Finnish preference is overwhelmingly Katek for very, very light roasts.
Which feels counterintuitive, but then you look at the chemistry of it. Light roasts actually hold on to more of the caffeine, don't they?
They retain slightly more caffeine, precisely. So they're maximizing the functional output of the bean. But there's a quality aspect to it, too.
How so?
Well, you can't hide bad beans in a light roast. You taste everything. And because Finland has some of the purest tap water in the world, they can brew these really delicate, almost tea-like light roasts.
Ah, so you can drink cup after cup without getting that, that heavy, burnt-out feeling you get from a French roast.
Exactly. If you're drinking 8 cups a day, you don't want to feel like you're drinking motor oil.
That makes a lot of sense. But it's not just, like, chain drinking coffee at a desk. The report talks about kavila.
Right, the coffee break.
Yeah.
But in Finland, this isn't just, I'm grabbing a refill. It's institutionalized.
Institutionalized.
Yeah. In many labor agreements and workplace cultures there, the coffee break is a sacred, sometimes legally mandated pause.
And I'm guessing it's rarely taken alone.
It's a communal act. And the report notes it's almost always paired with food.
Like a sandwich or a bun or something.
Yeah, something sweet or savory. When you're consuming that much acidity and caffeine, you need a bit of a caloric buffer. It turns the coffee break into a mini meal, a moment of actual nourishment, not just a chemical fix.
So Finland is the clear outlier at the top, but their neighbors are right on their heels. We slide over to number 2, which is Norway.
Clocking in at nearly 10 kilograms, so about 22 pounds per person.
Very similar geography, but I sense the cultural nuance shifts a little bit.
It does. In Norway, the purity of the drink is huge. The classic Norwegian cup is served black.
No sugar, no milk.
Just black coffee, which again speaks to that fuel aspect.
Mm-hmm.
But I was really struck by the social obligation mentioned in the notes. This idea of the kaffepause being a tool for welcoming people.
Oh, interesting.
It's basically the law of hospitality in the North. If you visit a Norwegian home, the coffee pot is going on. It's not even a question. It's the primary way of signaling you are welcome here.
And we have to talk about the darkness.
We have to. The long winters.
Yeah.
I mean, in parts of Norway, the sun barely rises for months on end. Coffee becomes this source of warmth and a psychological signal of awakeness when your whole environment is telling you to go to sleep.
It's a way to treat yourself.
A way to treat yourself, to find a little bit of joy when it's pitch black at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Wow. It's a coping mechanism in a mug. Okay, now, moving away from the mainland a bit, we hit number 3, Iceland. Roughly 9 kilograms per person.
Iceland is fascinating. It's an island nation with a relatively small population, and that isolation has bred this very fierce independence in their coffee culture.
The thing that really jumped out at me here was the complete absence of the big global chains.
Right.
You just don't see that green mermaid on every corner in Reykjavik.
No, and that's completely deliberate. The market there is dominated by independent, really high-quality shops. It's a much more craft-focused scene.
Why do you think that is?
Well, because the population is small.
Yeah.
I mean, Reykjavik is like a large town by global standards. The coffee shop becomes the public living room of the city.
It's where the dating happens, the business meetings, the gossip.
All of it. In a place where the wind can literally knock you off your feet, you aren't going to be hanging out in the park.
You're in the coffee shop.
You're in the coffee shop. The report really emphasizes that coffee is the cornerstone of social interaction there. It's not about grabbing a cup to go. It's about having a destination.
I love that distinction. It's not transit, it's the destination. Okay, let's move back to the mainland, because numbers 4 and 6, that's Denmark and Sweden, they really introduce a specific philosophy to this list. It feels less about fuel and more about the pause.
Absolutely. So Denmark is at number 4, and you just can't discuss anything about Denmark without talking about Hygge.
The famous cozy concept. We've all seen the books, we've bought the candles, but how does it actually translate to caffeine?
Well, in the context of coffee, Hygge dictates the speed of consumption. The report notes that in Denmark, coffee is meant to be enjoyed slowly. It's all about atmosphere. Historic coffee houses, low lighting, meeting with friends and family. It is the complete antithesis of the to-go culture.
So if American coffee culture is all about efficiency, the Danish culture is about presence.
That is perfectly put. And that same philosophy gets even more codified when we cross the bridge into Sweden, number 6 on our list.
And Sweden gives us the term Fika.
It does.
Fika is probably the most famous coffee term outside of espresso, but I feel like it's often mistranslated as just a coffee break.
It is so much more than that.
Yeah.
Fika it's a state of mind. It is a deliberate stepping away from your work, from your stress, to just reset. The report describes it as a reason to pause and enjoy life's little moments.
And crucially, Fika implies cake.
You have to have cake. Fika bread.
The pastries.
Yes, the cinnamon buns, the pastries. You cannot have a proper fika with just a liquid. The sugar and the caffeine together create this beautiful moment of indulgence.
And in Swedish corporate culture, it's a big deal.
It is. Skipping fika is almost seen as antisocial. It's where the real work relationships are built. It's not time wasted. It's the social glue holding the office together.
I think we could all use a little more mandated cake in our work days. Now, I want to pause on number 5, which is the Netherlands. They're sitting right in the middle of this Nordic pack, consuming about 18.5 pounds per person. But their relationship with coffee has a different root system.
It really does. While the Nordic countries are largely driven by their climate, the Dutch connection is driven by history and by trade.
Right.
We have to look way back to the 17th century. The Dutch East India Company was the first to really commercialize coffee cultivation on a massive global scale.
This is where the whole geography of the beans starts to shift.
Exactly. They took plants from Yemen and started cultivating them in Java, in Indonesia, which was a Dutch colony at the time.
Which is why we still call coffee Java.
That's exactly why. They essentially broke the Arab monopoly on the coffee trade and just flooded Europe with beans.
So for the Dutch, coffee isn't some drink they imported recently. They were the ones who basically put it on the map for the rest of Europe.
For a huge part of Europe, yes. It's been accessible and affordable in the Netherlands for longer than almost anywhere else. And that creates a deep generational habit.
And they have their own ritual, right? Coffee tide.
Coffee tide, coffee time. Usually mid-morning. It's a ritual that just echoes that long history of availability.
It's amazing how a trade route from 300 years ago still dictates how many cups you drink on a Tuesday morning in Amsterdam.
That's the power of infrastructure.
Yeah.
Once the beans are flowing, the culture just forms around them.
Okay, so moving down the list, we enter a region that I'm starting to think of as the precision and luxury zone. Numbers 7 and 8. Switzerland and Belgium.
Switzerland is at number 7. And when we think of Switzerland, we think of engineering.
Watches, trains that run on time.
And apparently very, very precise espresso machines.
Of course.
That's the key. The Swiss approach to coffee is technical. They were pioneers in automated espresso technology. The report highlights café crema, which is a specific type of long espresso drink that actually originated there. It's all about extracting the perfect flavor profile through perfect pressure and engineering.
So if the Finns are drinking it for warmth and the Swedes for the social pause, the Swiss are drinking it for the sheer appreciation of the craft.
There's definitely an element of personal pleasure and public passion, as the report puts it. It's a high-end, quality experience.
And right next door, you have Belgium at number 8, 15 pounds per person. And this feels less like engineering and more like pure indulgence.
Well, Belgium is famous for 2 things, right? Beer and chocolate. And their coffee culture is inextricably linked to the chocolate.
It's the pairing again.
It is, but unlike the Finnish sandwich, which is, functional, the Belgian pairing is decadent.
Right.
You get a piece of world-class chocolate or a rich pastry with your coffee. It turns the coffee break into a dessert course. It's a proper treat.
I'm sensing a theme here where the further south we go, the more culinary the experience becomes, even if the total volume drops a tiny bit.
That's a fair assessment. The desperation for heat starts to fade, and the appreciation for flavor pairing starts to take over.
Okay, rounding out the European contingent at number 9 is Luxembourg. A tiny nation, but punching way above its weight.
Way above, over 14 pounds per person.
What's the story there?
Luxembourg is a melting pot. It's squished right in the middle of France, Germany, and Belgium. So their coffee culture is this cosmopolitan mix of everything we've been talking about.
Oh, I see.
You've got the French cafe culture, the German filter coffee habit, and the Belgian appreciation for sweets. It's a crossroads of consumption.
And finally, we hit number 10, and this is the one that breaks the pattern. Every single country so far has been European, but number 10 takes us across the Atlantic.
To Canada.
Canada?
The Great White North.
Yeah.
Canada ties with Luxembourg at roughly 14.33 pounds per capita.
So why Canada? Why not the U.S.? Why not Australia?
Well, it comes right back to our very first point we made.
The cold.
The cold. Canada is the only country on this list that truly rivals the Nordic nations for sheer winter intensity.
So the latitude and lattes theory holds up.
It holds up perfectly. But Canada is interesting because it blends that European influence with a very North American convenience.
How do you mean?
You have this incredibly robust culture of local independent shops in cities like Vancouver and Montreal that can rival anything in Europe. But then you have the behemoth.
Tim Hortons?
You can't ignore it. The report specifically calls it out. It's not just a coffee chain. It is a Canadian cultural institution. Going for a Tim's run is part of the national vocabulary.
It's the glue, really. It connects the urban centers to all those rural outposts.
Exactly. Whether you are in a high-rise in Toronto or a truck stop in Saskatchewan, that hot cup of coffee is the common denominator. It keeps the rural areas warmly caffeinated, as the text says.
A survival tool against the vast, cold geography of the country.
That's what it is.
So we've toured the top 10. Finland, Norway, Iceland, Denmark, Netherlands, Sweden, Switzerland, Belgium, Luxembourg, and Canada. When you look at this list as a whole, what is the big takeaway? Because it's clearly not just about caffeine addiction.
No, it's not. If you look at all these countries, you realize that in the places that consume the most coffee, the drink is almost never about hustle.
That is such an important distinction. In, New York or London, coffee is fuel for the grind. It's to help you work faster, do more.
Exactly. But in Finland, in Sweden, in Norway, in Denmark, coffee is the brake pedal. It's the tool they use to stop the machine. Fika, Hygge, Kavila, these are all rituals designed to enforce a pause, to prioritize social connection over productivity.
Or maybe to recognize that social connection is productive.
A better way to put it, it's about survival, but not just physical survival against the cold. It's social survival. It's about combating isolation during those long, dark months.
The cup of coffee is just the excuse.
It's just the excuse to sit across from another human being and talk. The pastry is just the excuse to linger for 5 more minutes.
Which brings us to a bit of a provocative thought to end on. We've basically established that this whole coffee map is drawn by cold weather, by darkness, and by the need for physical gathering in offices or homes.
Right. The environment dictated the culture.
That environment is changing. We're facing a warming climate. And at the same time, the office is disappearing for millions of people. Remote work is keeping us in our houses alone.
It's a really valid question. If the winters get a bit warmer, and if we no longer have that collective break room moment, does the ritual survive?
Can you have a fika over Zoom?
It's not the same, is it?
Yeah.
If coffee was a survival mechanism for the cold and the dark, what happens when we all have central heating and digital connections? We might see this map look very different in 20 or 30 years.
The social survival aspect might just have to evolve into something else entirely.
It might.
That is a thought that might require a second cup of coffee to
Yeah, at
process.
least a second cup.
Yeah.
And maybe a cinnamon bun.
Definitely the bun. Thank you all for joining us on this deep dive into global caffeine culture. We hope you're enjoying a good cup wherever you are. We'll catch you on the next one.